Sometimes you see a title of a movie and think, I just have to watch that. This is what happened to me with this film. Also known as Prisoner of Love, this is Trapped by My Sugar Daddy. I'm Jay Harangue and I've wasted hours of my life watching terrible films.
You should subscribe.
It starts with this girl getting on this plane. She thinks she's meeting her boyfriend, but oh no! This is the Bragg family. This is Carly and she's the main character.
Hi.
She's in her first year of college studying design, and her mum Sarah has her own interior design business. Their neighbours have just sold their house and a single man has just bought it. So Carly decides to take a look at him through this telescope.
Talk about your distinguished older gentleman.
Carly's like, Mum, you need to make sure you're his interior designer. Later in town, Carly and Sarah bump into Amanda. She's an interior designer too. Amanda is with her son Billy and she suggests that he and Carly go on a date.
Oh, I have a boyfriend since the 9th grade.
Sarah's like, Amanda, did you see the big house by the lake sold?
Kyle Smithford, handsome, signed him this afternoon.
But later, Sarah's assistant tells her that Amanda was lying and that Kyle Smithford hasn't picked an interior designer yet. So Sarah's going round there now to try to get the job.
You coming?
Really?
When they get there, Kyle offers them a drink.
My daughter's underage.
Really?
Carly's like, yeah, I'm 18. We don't actually see Carl knocking one out behind the kitchen counter, but it's certainly implied. He's pretty impressed with their ideas, so he decides to hire them. When Sarah goes upstairs, Carl starts asking Carly where all the cool places are to hang out, even though he's 50.
My friend Mel, she works at the Roxford in Soho.
Can I take you there?
Take me there?
Well, I'd love to take you to dinner.
Okay, I've got everything I need.
That night, Carly goes out to see her friend Mel, who lives in town.
He was like 50 and I swear he hit on me.
Mel's like, just do it. You don't have to marry him. Just go on a dirty weekend.
I have been.
Ben is her boyfriend. Mel's like, whatever. When Carly gets home, someone is in the house.
It's a wedding necklace.
The next day, Carly goes back to see Mel and someone's taking photos of her. She's like, Mel, how do you have all these nice clothes? Mel's like, oh, I just sleep with older men.
I bet you do.
So while Mel's at work, Ben comes over.
I'm designing Sheila Bradley's old house with my mom. The guy who bought it, he's like 50 and he asked me to go out with him. I said no.
Bit of a weird thing to bring up. Ben's like, so I've been at college for a month and you've been flirting with other men.
You little whore.
She's like, no, I'm just telling you what's been going on in my life.
Why are you being like this?
Why are you?
And they split up. She goes to the bar where Mel's working and Mel's like, okay, you need to go out with that 50-year-old man. Carly's like, oh my God, he's actually here.
Girl, he is handsome.
She's like, age is just a number. Here, take my iPad and serve him drinks. So Carly goes over to ask him what they want to drink.
This is my business associate, Brent.
Mel comes over and she starts flirting with Brent. After they leave, Mel's like, right, you have to go out with that guy. You'll probably have to pretend to like Coldplay though. Carly's like, Coldplay? Why? Mel's like, because he's a 50-year-old man and not only do they like Coldplay, but they think young people like it too.
Yep.
As they leave, a car runs over Mel's colleague and she dies. When Carly gets home, she tells her mum that she thinks this could be linked to the guy who stole her necklace. The next day, when Carly and her mum are work at his house, Kyle asks Carly out again. She's like, oh, I don't know. So she calls Mel to ask her advice.
He's too old. He's my client. My mom would die. Stop it.
Carly's like, fuck it, I'm gonna do it. And Mel's like, good.
It's getting lonely out here.
Oh, I bet.
Kyle has sent Carly a book. She messaged him to say thanks and Kyle responds immediately. This is pretty quick texting, especially for a 50-year-old man. He says, drink in the city? She says, now? And he's like, yeah. So off she goes to meet him, but tells her mum she's meeting Mel. She meets him at an expensive French restaurant and he's bought her a dress. He's like, go put it on now. She puts it on in the bathroom and calls Mel.
This isn't a kiss goodnight on the cheek dress.
It's a kiss good morning in the sheets dress.
So now Carly knows what's expected. She goes back to his house and then they bang. They're pretty much together now, and a few days later, while they're sat on the couch at Carl's listening to Coldplay, Carly's phone's vibrating.
It's my boyfriend.
Boyfriend?
Ex.
She's like, don't worry, Carl, it's definitely over. The next day, Ben calls her and asks to see her.
Meet me at Old Bridge after class and do not be late.
As Ben is on his way to meet her, this happens.
God, that's gotta hurt.
Whoever this is doesn't seem to mind attacking him in broad daylight in the middle of town. He doesn't even make a run for it. He just stands there texting Carly from Ben's phone saying, not gonna make it. So she messages Kyle and asks what he's doing. Kyle's speed texter Smithford replies, meeting you, I'll send a car. So while they're out together, Angela sees her. Remember her from earlier? Yeah. And she's taking photos of them kissing. When Carly gets home, her mum's like, we need to talk. Ben has been attacked.
Isn't that terrible?
While Carly's crying about that, Angela sends Sarah a photo of Carly and Carl together. Sarah's like, Carly, are you shagging Mr. Smithford? Carly's like, yeah, I am.
What is wrong with you? Nothing's wrong with me.
Sarah's like, well, I can't work for him anymore, and I want you to stop seeing him immediately. So she breaks up with Kyle. At an unspecified time later, Carly is at Mel's work telling her how she's struggling to get over Kyle because every other guy is so immature. Mel's like, yeah, Brent says Kyle really wants to see you again. When they leave, Kyle has sent a car to pick Carly up. So she goes back to his house and then they bang.
You just call me a car and expect me to come?
Yep. The next morning, there's a knock on the door. It's Amanda. She's heard Sarah's not working for him anymore, so she's come over to try and get his business. Carly's hiding round the corner, but...
Hi, Carly.
Why was Amanda's son there? We saw that he didn't come in with his mum. Did he sneak through the back door? Anyway, Amanda reports this to Sarah and she's livid. She kicks Carly out of the house, so she goes to stay with Mel. She doesn't want to live off Kyle, so she gets a job at the bar Mel works at so she can pay her rent. The next day, Carly and Mel go over to Kyle's house and Brent comes along. Sarah is still furious and decides to look through the telescope. The first thing she sees is Carly and Kyle kissing. Back at Kyle's.
Hey, put the gun down. What's going on?
What do you want?
I want my daughter, Mr. Coleman. You're Peter Coleman and you took my Tanya.
That's not me.
Shut up!
Okay, just take it easy.
When the police turn up,
And you have no idea who she was.
No idea at all.
Mel's like, right, that's it, I'm going home. Carly goes after her and she's like, Mel, I'm sure Brent had nothing to do with this. And she's like, oh, come on, it's obvious they're up to something. Plus, I'm sick of their Coldplay CDs.
Are you coming?
I'll be over later.
Sarah then calls Carly and says she's sorry about everything and that she wants her to come home. But Carly's like, no, I'm staying at Mel's. That night, Carly tells Carl that Mel is suspicious of Brent. Carl's like, whatever, that woman was crazy.
Crazy with grief or whatever. Crazy enough to break into my house with a gun.
He's like, I don't want to hear any more about this. Carl is becoming more and more controlling.
Ooh, that can't be good.
At the bar where Mel and Carly work, their boss has seen that the cash has all gone missing from the safe, and Carly's necklace was in there.
That doesn't look good.
So she's sacked, and so is Mel for bringing her in. Mel's like, okay, Carly, open your eyes. All this stuff that's happened since we met Kyle and Brent, it's not going to be a coincidence, is it?
No.
So Carly moves in with Kyle. That night, Brent goes round to Mel's apartment and tells her she's not going to get away from him that easily. She calls Carly to tell her, but Carly can't talk because Kyle is there. A few days later, Carly gets a text from Ben. She calls him back, but Kyle grabs the phone. Carly's like, what are you doing?
What are you doing?
Ben woke up.
I don't care.
They start arguing and Kyle gets a bit physical. He says sorry, but it's too late and Carly is starting to wise up.
At last.
Sarah tries to call Carly the next day, but again, Kyle intervenes and he's like, she doesn't want to speak to you. So Sarah and her husband go round there. Kyle isn't answering the door and calls the police.
She brought this on herself.
When the only police officer in town gets there, she asks Carly if she's being held against her will.
No.
So Sarah's parents are sent home. On the way home, Sarah calls Mel.
Tell me everything that happened between Carly and Kyle.
She says, well, at first I really liked Brent's fancy apartment, but then it all got weird. Sarah's like, where's his apartment? Mel tells her, but when she goes round there, Brent has disappeared. It turns out that Brent has paid Amanda's son Billy to steal Carly's necklace, frame her for stealing the money from the bar, and get him Carly's passport.
Well, that makes sense.
That night, Kyle and Brent have a surprise for Carly.
I just thought we would spend the weekend at the plaza.
Brent uses Carly's phone to text Mel and tells her to meet at the airport. Carl's driver Dan takes Carly into the city, but she notices he's headed to the airport. Knowing something's wrong, she calls her mum and tells her she's being taken to the airport.
Drive, Michael, to the airport. Something's wrong.
But it looks like they're going to be too late.
Get on the plane! Get on the plane!
Mel!
Mel is already on the plane, tied up and gagged. Carly's like, where are you taking us? Brent's like, we're going to an intimate evening with Coldplay, live in Boston. Carly's like, you can't do this. But he's like, yeah, I can. It's all been planned.
You're never gonna get away with this.
He's like, yes, we will. Kyle is arriving soon with the tickets. Carly's parents have arrived at the airport and somehow her dad's baseball bat beats Carl's driver's gun.
Where is she?
What's actually going on here is that Kyle and Brent are selling teenage girls to people in other countries for $500,000.
You're never gonna get away with this.
Then Carl turns up and he's like, yeah, we will. We've done about 50 of these already. I'm not quite sure about the business model. Assuming Carl and Brett will get $1 million for these two, Carl's had to buy that house, which I assume cost way more than that. Anyway, Carly's parents show up just in time and ram into their plane. Sarah goes in with a gun and shoots Brent in the head, and when the police get there, Carl is arrested.
No, I never meant to do you harm.
At an unspecified time later, Carly is at home with her parents, and she's decided to change her major from design to psychology so she can understand how she was manipulated so easily. Now everyone's happy. Yeah. And that's the end of the film. So until next time. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this, please like and subscribe and check out this other video. Thank you.